Hello everyone and welcome to 101 old school RuneScape facts you probably didn't know. Let's get into it. Varrock Center used to have a circular fountain that you couldn't walk through, and it used to look like this. A Reddit user asked, what's the largest item in game that you can drop? As in, what item takes up the most amount of space on the ground? And well, the answer is, if you trade Purdue and buy a beacon ring with a full inventory, then you'll drop the beacon ring on the ground, and this thing is pretty big. A total of 8 hardcore Iron Men have been killed by the crab so far, which has a max hit of 1. During the quest Throne of Miscellanea, you'll need to give the princess a ring to get her to marry you. Most people just use a gold ring, but many different rings work. Some of the most expensive rings are manually excluded, but you actually can give her an internal Slayer ring worth 10 million gold. So in old school RuneScape, there's this thing called animation stalling. Basically, there's ways to use an item and then do an emote, while at the same time having your player run around the game and attack other players and stuff like that, but giving the appearance of the player being stuck in one place doing an emote. This can be pretty dangerous, especially in PvP, where you can just get rushed and attacked without even knowing where the other player is in the game. You can actually put 2 halves of a pizza together to make a full pizza, but you cannot put 2 halves of a pie together to make a full pie. In 2023, a player found a duplication glitch in Soul Wars, which he then exploited and made 450 billion GP, and he eventually sold it for 100,000 US dollars before it got patched. Kebabs can be used to make compost. Some players in old school RuneScape actually have a fire cape at only combat level 3. In 2019, a player by the name Xerac killed Jad with a combat level 3 account, being the first player to have a fire cape at level 3. In the Chasm of Fire, if you go up this lift to where this NPC is here, there's an invisible tile which allows you to step on the edge of the platform, making it look like you're floating. Xanaris is located on the moon. The Yak-hide legs actually have a higher range attack bonus and defensive stats than the green D-hide chaps. During the quest Curse of the Empty Lord, there is a person in it who will say he needs a powerful magic user. If you have 99 magic, your character will say, I don't mean to brag, but I have level 99 magic. The YouTuber SoupRS found out that using the agility shortcut from Draenor Village to Port Sarim is only about 3 seconds quicker rather than running around the normal way. Back in the day, the Black Knight used to be the strongest mob in the game, with a combat level of 46. The NPC Hans out the front of Lumbridge walks around the Lumbridge castle all day every day. A Reddit user once calculated at the time of this posting that from the time that Hans had been added into the game, that he had done approximately 11,247,838 laps around the Lumbridge castle. During the quest Monkey Madness, at any point during or after the quest you feed your monkey a banana, it has a rare 1 in 256 chance of spitting out a medium clue scroll. 1 coin is called coins. With the item Your Pet Rock, you can actually feed it, talk to it, stroke it, and even tell it to fetch a stick. But if you put the rock down in your player-owned house, and then if you leave your house and then come back, when you return, sometimes your pet rock will have moved, meaning that your pet rock actually might be alive. In the God Wars dungeon, there's a couple frozen orcs here with the word noob written in front of them. This next fact is actually pretty useful. So we all know that the follow feature isn't the best, and it's very easy to get stuck on things when turning. But if you right click and use an item in your inventory on the player that you want to follow, then your player will moonwalk around any objects that are in the way, making this kind of useful. The Elf City Prifddinas was released in September of 2004, but for a long time you couldn't access it, and it wasn't until 2014 it was added into RuneScape 3, and finally added into old school RuneScape in 2019. Back in the day, the Zamorak Temple by the Goblin Village had a door that could be repeatedly closed. Players would do this, trapping newer players inside and forcing them to take the wine of Zamorak so that they can get their items. This made Jagex remove the door completely in RuneScape 3, and in old school RuneScape the door is now locked into place and cannot be open or shut. Plate bodies used to have longer sleeves for the icon in your inventory, and they used to look like this. When cutting a tree, there's a 1 in 256 chance of getting a falling bird's nest to drop. And then on top of that, there's a 1 in 250 chance for the falling bird's nest to play the Armadillo crossbow spec noise when it drops. You can buy a Paramaya ticket in Shiloh Village in the Paramaya Inn. The ticket allows you to sleep in one of the inn's beds. The reason for this was for players back in classic days would have a location in the village to sleep to reduce their fatigue, in case they had no sleeping bag. Despite neither fatigue or sleeping bags being a thing in the game anymore, you can still buy a ticket and sleep in the inn. After every game update, the doors to castle walls close. They can only be opened once and they will remain open until the next game update. So try and be the person to open the doors the next time the game updates, knowing that you're the one who did that. The Falador castle never used to always be white. Back in the day, it used to have a grey colour kind of like the Lumbridge castle. The Castle Wars bridge used to have a glitch where it would go invisible if you lit a fire on it. Gem bags actually have a chance to drop an onyx gem. The chance is so low that it has only happened once or twice in the history of RuneScape. It is so rare that Jagex actually made an announcement on Twitter when the first player finally got one. If you are wielding an Armadillo God Sword in the desert and cut a cactus to refill your water skin, your AGS will spec it. The leprechaun at the Falador farming patches refuses to note cabbages because he doesn't like the smell of them. He'll tell you not to be showing him any cabbages because the whole farm stinks of the things, and to take it away and get it exchanged somewhere else. In 2003, the Lumbridge bridge used to look like this. Then in 2004, it changed to this for a period of time, before finally changing back to the bridge that we all know and love today. A couple years ago, Jagex came out with an update which updated the hairstyles in the game. This caused a couple bugs in the game, and there was one user on Reddit where he was unable to see Zuck's shield while doing the Inferno, which is pretty unfortunate. This has since been patched, but you used to be able to light fire underwater using the Barbarian training method. You can build a topiary bush in your POH, and if you have secateurs on you and you use them on the bush, then you can trim it into various bosses that you've killed in the game, such as Vorkath and Zulrah and Skotizo. So in my last video, I mentioned how cows cannot be poisoned because their moo interrupts the poison timer from ticking. Well, it actually turns out that chickens are also immune to poison and venom, as their egg laying timing will also interrupt the poison from ticking and the chicken taking damage. You can actually attack the dummies in West Barrock for attack experience, but only if you're below level 8. Another good example of Jagex's spaghetti code is the farming patch at Trollheim. If you pan the camera southeast, then the farming patch will sit on top of the character. Last year, a player by the name of Port Kazard completed the Inferno, getting an Infernal Cape without the use of any overhead prayers, being the first player to ever do this, which I didn't even know was possible, but congratulations. If you talk to the tramp in Varrock, then he will ask you if you have some spare change, and if you decline to give him any money, then it will tick him off a little bit, and if you follow him, then you'll see that he'll just be walking around Varrock telling everybody that he hates you. So a feature recently got added into the game where if you talk to the gnome in Puro and ask about the wheat, then you will have the option to turn on and off the ability to get strength experience when pushing through the wheat. So if you're a level 3 skiller account, or if you want to make a skiller, then you'll be able to catch implings and loot them and all that without worrying about getting any combat levels. The price of Elder Malls went up a lot last year. They used to be sitting around 8 mil. But nowadays they're sitting around roughly 120 mil. And Odablock has a friend that bought 309 Elder Malls when they were at their lowest, making a nice 50 billion GP profit. If you have any insane GE flipping profits like this, then drop it down in the comments. I'd love to hear it. I've seen a lot of 2 Defense Pure accounts around lately, but there's actually this really useful plugin called Attack Styles, where it will take away the option to use a defensive attack, so it should be pretty much impossible for anyone to get 2 defense on their Pure account ever again. The Chaos Partisan has the highest max hit in old school RuneScape. If you have max combat stats, the best in slot gear, piety, and you're on a Slayer task with the blue gem in the Chaos Partisan, then the theoretical max hit you can hit on a Kel fight is 195. This one might be common knowledge by now, but there's actually a HD old school RuneScape client that has been officially approved by Jagex that you can download from the Jagex launcher right now. So if you want to try something different, or if you just have a friend that wants to get into old school RuneScape but is not a fan of the old graphics, then it's definitely worth checking out. In 2005, there was a cult in old school RuneScape called the Order of the Cabbage, where the members would pick and collect lots of cabbages, then they would go bomb Varrock, dropping cabbages everywhere and doing stuff like that. So currently, the heaviest weight a player can weigh is 1,027 kilograms, which most of that weight coming from the golden helmet, which weighs 31.7 kilograms. Back in 2014, when the Kraken boss was introduced, there's actually a very small Easter egg that came along with it. So one of the items that the Kraken can drop is a jar of sand. And if you use the jar of sand on any other item, then nothing will happen. But if you use it on a jar of dirt, then the sand will go into the jar of dirt and vice versa. I'm not sure why this is, but I think it might be a reference to the movie Pirates of the Caribbean. There is actually a plugin that can replace your thralls with pets. If you go to the plugin hub, then it's called Companion Pet Plugin. So whenever you summon a thrall, you can make it look like Zora or Vorkath, which is pretty cool. It's actually possible to go from 35 cooking to 99 in 1 XP drop. If you keep making jugs of wine in a 12-second time period, it resets the clock for all your fermented wines, meaning you can ferment thousands of wines on the exact same game tick, leading to massive XP drops. YouTuber Raf did this, but he went from 65 to 99 all in 1 XP drop. Level 65 to decrease the amount of bad wines he makes, so he can guarantee that massive XP drop. There are over 1.5 million walkable tiles in old school RuneScape, and some JMods have confirmed that there are a few tiles in the game that have not been walked on yet. But 10 months ago, YouTuber Hannah and a bunch of friends used the tile tracking plugin and walked on every single tile in the game. In classic old school RuneScape, the strength potion used to be purple, and when Jagex updated it to the yellow color we have today, there was a week where the 4-dose potion was still purple, but doses 1 to 3 were yellow. Around 2008 and 2009, water fountains and other water features would periodically have the fire cape texture. Back in the day, the anti-dragon fire shield used to just be called dragon fire shield, and it used to look like this. You can actually predict where Jad will spawn early on in the fight caves. If you take note of where the blob spawns on the 3rd wave, then that's where Jad will spawn. Recently, a bot was found perfectly 1-tick cooking crime ones, which gives a crazy 900,000 cooking XP an hour. And for comparison, sharks and anglerfish give roughly 300,000 cooking XP per hour. If you right click the banker and select bank, instead of simply just left clicking on the bank, then you will open up the bank interface a lot faster, which can be pretty handy if you're doing a lot of bank activities in the game. Another random fact about old school RuneScape is that you can use an abyssal whip to cut bananas. I'm not exactly sure how this would work because the abyssal whip is, well, it's a whip and not sharp or anything, but on top of this you can use it to slash through spiderwebs and stuff like that. There is a random guard sitting in a tree outside the bank in Draenor. You can feed this guard a stew and he will give you 30 GP. He will also get angry if you try and chop his tree down. So as you know, in RuneScape, all new characters start off as level 3 because you start off with 10 hit points, but a YouTuber by the name of Pip was able to get a level 1 account.
How's that dude level 1 in bronze? What? This guy's genuinely level 1 in bronze.
He did this in the game mode leagues by getting over 210 million experience in hit points, which overflowed his XP and set his hit points level back to level 1. Back in the old days of RuneScape, the fire cape used to look slightly different until Jagex decided to update it in 2007, but in classic Jagex fashion, they made a mistake and for a week the fire cape would appear upside down in your inventory. The 3rd age pickaxe is the most expensive item in old school RuneScape. They are currently being sold for 11 billion GP at the moment. If you were to buy a 3rd age pickaxe by selling bonds, then you would have to buy approximately $9,126 US worth of bonds to be able to afford a 3rd age pickaxe. If you use a gold ring in the lava out here in the wilderness, then a goblin will appear saying "my precious," which is a Lord of the Rings reference. Once Jagex came out with an update to improve loading times loading into your player owned house, but this causes the player to appear outside the home portal for a split second. Right after the update, YouTuber KempQ noticed this and started killing bots right outside the home portal. This was a very dangerous bug, especially if a player had a lot of valuable items on them. Luckily, Kemp reported this to Jagex and has since been patched. If you right click your home teleport spell and then select animation and then select RuneFest 2014, then the next time you use your home teleport spell, you will get a unique animation of a cow kicking you back to Lumbridge. For some reason, if you wear a Harem's robe top and a Mystic robe bottom OR, then your character will do some very funky animations when you do some emotes. And then if you use the RuneFest 2014 teleport spell, then things get even weirder. If you search a haystack, then there's actually a 10% chance you'll find a needle in there. And then if you find one, then the player will say, "Wow, a needle. Now what are the chances of finding that?" Salts from Wheeze that you use to make teleports are named for a reason. The 3 salts T, F, and ERT spell out teeth hurt, suggesting the trolls attempted to eat them before discovering its useful fire making.
Collection log slot. Collection log slot. completed.
In old school RuneScape, no one has actually fully completed the collection log slots, but currently a player by the name of Marnie is rank 1 and has completed a whopping 1,462 out of 1,491 collection log slots. This is because of the third age items, which you get from clue scrolls, which have a 1 in 249,262 chance to get, but the reward caskets can roll with multiple items, so the number is a little bit lower than that, but let's just say they're pretty rare. If you do the quest Doric's quest and already have all of the required materials on you, then you will get unique dialogue with your player saying how you already have those exact materials on you, and Doric will say things like how much of a coincidence that is. If you're poisoned and you have the correct antidote potion in your inventory, then you can click your HP orb to drink the potion and cure the poison effect. The longest name for our item in old school RuneScape is the Rune Scimitar Ornament Kit Saradomin. So pets are some of the rarest items in the entire game, and there's actually a feature where if you go from 0 to 200 million experience without getting a pet, then you will get a 15 times multiplier, making it much more likely for you to get a pet. This has also been confirmed by a few different JMods, but getting 200 million experience before a single pet is very unlucky, but I'm sure it has happened. The world record for the fastest fight caves is 19 minutes and 10 seconds by a player named Parhiz. This is particularly hard to do because the location the monsters spawn in the fight caves is dependent on what time of the day it is. So these speedrunners have a very short window of time for when they can attempt speedruns in the fight caves, because they will always be looking for a certain spawn rotation for the most efficient run. Back in the early days in classic RuneScape, some skills had different names. The first one being prayer, which was called necromancy, and then the second one being herb lore. The wise old man's house at Draenor Village has books in it that explain algebra and calculus. In old school RuneScape, the rarest level 99 skill is runecrafting, with only 88,379 players achieving it. To put that in perspective, the most common skills are strength, hit points, and range, with strength coming in at number 1 with 588,820 players achieving it, compared to runecrafting's 88,000 players. Vials of water only fill 1/4 of a water skin, but you can fill an empty bucket with a vial of water, which will then fully fill a water skin. In the Lumbridge Swamp Cave, if you venom a rock slug, then it will continue dying, taking poison damage over and over forever, for all eternity, until Wednesday when the game updates. It's a mechanic where it cannot die without using a bag of salt on it that you get from Slayer Masters. There's an interesting glitch with the Werewolf Agility course in Mortania. While doing the Agility course, if you equip any weapon that changes your run or walk animation, and after you climb this skull slope part of the Agility course, you will go back to having a normal run and walk animation, but with whatever weapon you had equipped. You'll go back to having the normal animation after you re-equip another weapon or teleport, but it will still stay if you just leave the Agility course. One of my favorite ones would probably be the Giant Boulder, because it looks like it kind of just clips into your head. If you go to the Corporeal Beast and detach your camera and look underneath, then you can see it's got an extra layer to it, which has the word Corp written on it. There's a couple interesting facts in Varrock. There's an NPC cleaner here, and if you drop ashes and he happens to come by, then he'll actually sweep up the ashes that you dropped on the ground. Over in East Varrock, where the museum is, there's a person who goes to and from the dig site with a wheelbarrow to get fossils and whatnot. Usually he'll say what's up to the guards, and the guards will say nothing new here. But if you kill all of the guards just as he comes out of the museum, then you'll get some unique dialogue of him asking how the guards are going, but then realizing that they're all dead. If you look at the shape of the group Iron Man tutorial island, then you'll see that it's in the shape of an Iron Man helmet. There are also boars on this tutorial island, which is most likely a reference to the South Park episode Make Love Not Warcraft, where they killed only boars in the starting zone Alwyn Forest to level up their characters.
We can't get to a higher level because that dude doesn't let us finish quests. That's why we need to just log in and stay in the forest, killing boars. Boars? Dude, boars are only worth 2 experience points apiece.
In Xanaris, Fair Enough has a very interesting shop, where you can trade gems to her in exchange for a small amount of hit points. I'm not sure if anyone's actually ever done this before, but this extremely useful service is impossible to use after starting the Fairy Tale Part 1 quest. If you try burying Zorg bones in Jig Jig, there's a small chance that a Scourge will rise from the grave and attack you. The crystal crown in the Prifdin's clothes shop is worth 250 million GP and is programmed to restock once every 250 million game ticks, which is 4.8 years. What likely happened is when this was getting programmed, the quantity and the restock time got mixed up. The lowest level Inferno completion is combat level 37 by a player known as Afsol, who also had the previous Inferno world record with the combat level 39 completion about a year ago. A half coconut is always worth exactly half of a coconut. There's a pole in the bandit camp that you're prevented from using if you're wearing Saradomin equipment, and a chat box pops up saying the bandits don't like your attire. In old school RuneScape, cats have a ridiculous amount of unique dialogue depending on what type of cat you grow, its hunger, happiness, location, and what you're wearing. I don't have one on me, but if you grow a wily cat, then it will talk shit to you if you're wearing a dragon chain body, saying that the dragon armor you're wearing is so last year. Anyways, there's 20 minutes of 101 old school RuneScape facts. This has just been a compilation of all the OSRS fact videos I made. But yeah, if you made it to the end, then thank you so much for watching. My name is Horizon MC, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.